Hello. Hi, hi, hi. How's everyone doing? Good? Yeah, let me hear it again. How's everyone doing? Good? Alright, so hello, welcome, good evening everyone. My name is Pito. I'm the city holder of PechaKucha Night Ubud. On a daily life, you will see me at Ubud. So I don't know if everyone already been to Ubud before? Yeah? Right, for those who don't, probably a small amount of audience here. Ubud is a co-working space. It's located at the Monkey Forest. So we do a lot of events there. It's a DNA of our co-working space. We organize about 430 events in a year, including PechaKucha so far as well. I mean, we have 32 PechaKuchas since we opened. So if you want to come and check out and also want to learn as well, we have a lot of learning events for you. Next to Ubud, I also organize this thing called Invasion Ubud, or it's a pool party. So if anyone here, I hope everyone are into pool party. We have a party this Saturday. The location will be announced soon. You can check out the Invasion Ubud. So PechaKucha. Let's go back to that. Right. So PechaKucha in Japanese, it means chit chat. So that's why we have a really strict format of 20 seconds and 20 slides. So it's 6 minutes 40 for each speaker to present their ideas and topics. So the 20 seconds is absolute. The speaker won't have any power to change the slides. And it is really difficult as well, especially for those who already speak a lot at maybe TED or other presentations. 6 minutes 40, it sounds very short, but at the same time it's also very long. If you're boring, then it's going to be long. But no, not tonight, because we have 6 amazing speakers, which I will tell about that later. But since we started PechaKucha in September 2013. So we've already organized this event for 3 years. We've had on this stage a child soldier in the previous PechaKucha. We've had as well a North Korean refugee speaking here. And we've also had an 11-year-old kid talking about addiction. We've welcomed a lot of people who have a voice to speak on this stage. And today is a very special edition because we will have 8 speakers. And not only speakers, they are female. So for the first time since we started, we have female speakers, all female speakers. Yeah, and I like that. Yes, sponsor guy. Somebody came to us earlier today and said, "Hey, I'm a guy, I can't come." Actually, I would recommend everyone, but anyone is here. Everyone is here. So it's good to see a lot of men. So today, these women, 8 inspiring women, will share their stories around empowerment, polymaths, judgment, overcoming diseases, raising children to music and arts, and rescripting our life and being a woman in a male-dominated world. So we have today Mona. Let's give her applause. And we also have Elaine. You just have to clap every time I mention her name, right? So we also have Astrid. We have Patricia. We have Nefena and Ellen. And we also have Diane and also Sonia. But before I go to the first speaker, I would like to thank betelNut, our venue partner. They've been a very loyal, friendly partner since the beginning. I don't know the adjective for that. We've organized 31 PechaKuchas on this stage, so I would like you to also give a big applause for this venue. So they do a lot of events here. They also have a lot of movie nights in the next coming days. You can see as well on this, at the door for the schedule and also on their website. Right, so let's get it started.
Yeah.
The first speaker for tonight is Mona Motwani. So Mona is a human rights lawyer turned entrepreneur. Mona is the co-founder of Spark, a grassroots venture philanthropy nonprofit that invests in women's organizations. But life didn't always go at her pace. So tonight, Mona will share what can happen when life handed you lime. So please give a big applause to Mona.
Ooh, I don't usually get nervous. Oh, I took my shoes off to make me feel more comfortable. Okay, can everyone hear me? Yeah? I just dosed myself with peace and calming. Do you know that essential oil? So, okay. So when I was a little kid, I had so much energy that my parents put me in every sport they could think of. They put me on skis at the age of 3, volleyball, basketball, softball, anything that could get my energy out. It was no surprise that I was on a snowboard right here, doing other extreme sports before law school and after college. I had a zest for life. So I went, I had a zest, sorry. Okay, I had a zest for life, and so I wanted to use this to help others. I became a human rights lawyer, helping others with working at the United Nations, doing human trafficking work, working with the homeless, the disabled, and refugee populations. I wanted to empower others by giving them a voice. I also started a nonprofit called Spark, which empowers grassroots women's organizations. This is one of our grantees in Africa that helps low-income girls get to school. But life does not always show up as we want it to. I became extremely sick while I was working. I was so sick that I needed to sleep under my desk. I would often be found napping under there. I couldn't walk the 10 minutes it took to get to the train station. I also had trouble breathing. I couldn't remember negotiations. I had no idea what was happening to my body. And finally, I was forced to quit my job. I later found out I had Lyme disease, a disease transmitted by a tick that basically destroys every single part of your body, including your brain. For 8 years, I would be found in a wheelchair, a bed, or attached to an IV pole, or basically at my parents' house. There were some days that I was spoon-fed. There were some days I crawled to the bathroom. But there were some days that I walked 10 minutes. And it was in these moments that I felt like I had climbed Mount Everest. It was these little moments of micro-bravery that got me through what felt like 8 years of hell. There's no doubt that I felt sadness, exhaustion, anger, confusion. But life often hands us our greatest blessings in disguise. Often things come to us in insurmountable challenges to wake us up. And indeed, with time, I can see now that Lyme was here to wake me up. It woke me up to the person I was meant to be. Despite all the pain of the needles and the oxygen tanks, it woke me up who I was meant to be. It stripped me of my identity, which was actually a good thing. Every single person I thought I was, a lawyer, a partier, a this, a that, gone. But underneath it was something else, the true Mona, that was invisible to the naked eye, but that could be felt with my heart and my soul once I dropped into that spot. And my friends could see that as well when they got to that. This is a gold sequin cape my friends made me, so I felt like a superwoman when I was infusing my IVs. Lyme gave me the opportunity to take care of myself. I wanted to save the world, and I drove myself downwards trying to do so. I always took care of others first. So I ended up learning to take care of myself. I also learned that I was never broken, that despite my body feeling fragile or looking a certain way, that I was never broken inside. And the reason I still stood was because there was a light that others saw inside me and reminded me of. And I also realized that perhaps my lesson here is that I don't have to help others, which I so badly wanted to do as a lawyer with documents, by fixing them and their problems, but by actually seeing them and being present with them. That's all I ever wanted from people when I was sick, was for them to see me and be present with me and see that I'm not broken, that I have something inside of me. So against all odds, I recovered from Lyme disease. I was told I wouldn't, and 3.5 years ago, I moved to Bali. This is one of the blessings of Lyme disease, that I ended up on this island and not working 13 hours with the white picket fence and 2.5 kids that I thought that I wanted. When I moved to Bali, I also started an e-commerce business. I actually launched a product related to sleep insomnia that I had when I had Lyme disease, here in the walls of Ubud, the co-working space. And within a year of launching my business, I had become a full-fledged entrepreneur, something I never thought I would be. And I was able to pay off 8 years of medical debt. I was financially independent. I was speaking to others about my transition into my new life. And more importantly, I had the physical, emotional, and mental space, finally, to create the time and money to do the passion projects, to give from a place of fullness instead of emptiness. And right now, I've actually been doing started a project with a beautiful woman here on working with child soldiers in Africa. And it's from this place that I finally get to give, from this journey that I see I actually have something to offer to these people that I'm helping, and they actually have something to offer me. Bali also offered me the gift of reconnecting with my Hindu roots. I was born and raised in America, my parents are from India, and I was completely disconnected from my culture. And in a way, moving to Bali has given me this amazing spiritual insight into where I come from. It's been a magical ride and also a crazy ride, as those of you who live in Bali know. Most of us want the easy path. We want to get from A to B in one fell swoop. And sometimes that happens, especially here in Bali. But sometimes it looks like life vomited you up in a blender. And it looks like the bottom line, and it feels like fucking shit, excuse my language. But guess what? Sometimes, years later, days later, months later, you will see that the biggest pieces of gold came from that. That the dark actually illuminates the light. It doesn't hide it, but it illuminates it. It comes to the surface. And so my favorite Joseph Campbell quote, we must be willing to let go of the life we planned, so to have the life that is waiting for us. I was told many times, Mona, life will not hand you challenges that you can't handle. And I often wanted to punch the people who told me this. But I befriended a man recently who was on this stage, a child soldier, Emmanuel Jal, who many of you have seen, who's been guiding me. And he has reminded me that it is true, Mona. After what he's been through, I have to believe it. That we are given the infinite intelligence in our bodies to overcome anything, even when it feels insurmountable, even when it feels it's not fair. And so the beauty of my journey that I want to share with you is when nothing, absolutely nothing seems certain, everything is possible.
How was it to be the first?
I'm glad I got it over with.
Really, really well. Right, so this is the time where we normally take questions. So if anyone has a question, you can ask now. Yes. What finally cured you from Lyme disease?
What finally cured me? I mean, in like a logical brain sense, I could tell you, you know, all the treatments I did and everything, which were ranging from Western to holistic. And I have a lot of friends who had Lyme that did the same things, but I have to be honest that the only reason I think I got better, I could have done all those treatments, is because of the internal work I did on myself. You know, it sounds very cliche, but the emotional work, the spiritual work, the energetic shifting, you know, and I would love to say that work is over, but unfortunately, life just keeps happening. So that really, to me, was the key. But I am going to write a book, an ebook for people with Lyme, since it's so prevalent now, about what I did to share. But I really think that is a key piece. And I had a lot of friend support. I had friends that are just like the friends I see here that are basically like family to me. And that's probably why I feel like crying, because I see a lot of them here.
Spotlight. Right. Next question. right. So my question is, so how did you come to Bali? Why did you come to Bali?
To Bali. So, I was a lawyer, so I did everything from here. My mom's a scientist, my dad's an engineer, my parents were from India. We do things from the brain, we think. And I had this gut feeling that was like, you need to move to Bali. And I told my friends, I just woke up and I decided to move to Bali. And they were like, you are batshit crazy. But I had this knowing. And I don't know what it was, I just had this knowing, and those of you that live in Bali probably know what I'm talking about. And I didn't know what to do with it other than to research and talk to people that lived here. And 4 months later, I just said, I have to follow this. And I was able to, because I was working remotely and able to, do all that. So that's what brought me here.
Any other questions? Right. Well, thank you, Mona. Right, so the next speaker is Elaine Schmidt. So, Elaine, okay, maybe we can come again. Elaine Schmidt. So, Elaine is a former street lodge world champion who now inspires people with her motivation to become a better version of herself. Themselves. She is a passionate and driven individual whose kindness is her greatest strength. Tonight, she will be talking about how owning her femininity in a gentle and powerful way guides her through the path of empowerment. So please, one more time, give a big applause to Elaine.
Now it's time for a little rock and roll. Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'm here tonight to share with you my secret identity. So when I was a teenager, I discovered snowboarding, and it was the beginning of a chain reaction of passion that led me to surfing, and eventually downhill skateboarding and street luge. Not really Ubud standard, right? This is street luge, and this is me in white. We go down hills, down roads, close to traffic with protections in the dangerous areas. It implies a lot of speed and adrenaline, and as you can guess, some risk. We are 10 to 15% of women practicing downhill skateboarding and street luge. Being a woman is all about learning to take advantage of what can look like apparent weakness. I'm tiny, but I'm very clean, so I'm very aerodynamic, and I don't need to brake that much in the corners. My intuition makes me anticipate tricks, and chaturanga made my push amazing. After a few years, I started racing, mostly to have the opportunity to ride such amazing roads like this one, close to traffic, and to be with the international community. I've been world champion in 2006, and a few years later, I was one of the fastest riders on the planet, men included. But I'm going to share with you a secret. Here's the second coming in. I don't like racing. I mean, look at my face. I'm in pole position. I don't know what I'm doing here. Because there's a lot of manly stress implied, and the behavior you can witness are not always super nice. And it triggers a lot of doubt and resistance. My solution has been to learn to do things from the heart. To accept that some people like goals and pressure, and some people freeze. So if I disconnect myself from very high expectation and other people expectation, and I do things from a place of enjoying the process, this is where I thrive, from a place of fun, passion, and purpose. When pressure hits, I remember why I came here and what makes me like this so much. And one of the things that makes it like it so much is the community. I've met amazing people on my way, and these are some of my people and some of the best riders on the planet. We have the best fun together, and we support, learn from each other, and we create this very safe and empowering place to be challenged and to progress constantly. But you cannot, in life and in street luge, choose all the time who you're with. So it's all about keeping resources so you can deal with unexpected and comfortable situation that can be created by people who are full on or not be aware of what they're doing, in order to manage the situation with awareness. Because in life, as well as in street luge, it's all about managing risk in an ever-changing environment. And the more you are aware of yourself and of the environment around you, the more when you're in a place of clarity, you can take the right decisions and respond properly rather to react out of survival mode. But still, things can go wrong. You can hurt yourself in life and in street luge. You can hurt other people. You can die. The hard lesson is to accept it and embrace it. Accept that everything presents risk. And even if there's fear happening afterwards, you can have anger when somebody makes you crash. Especially when you're a woman that feel that you've been the victim of reckless behavior of men. So rather than shaming, which can be very tempting, it's about putting yourself in the place of learning the lessons and always remember you could be that person, or maybe you've been that person one day. I mean, we can all fuck up, right? Still, as a woman, it's all about learning to speak your voice and managing to be heard in a male-dominated environment. And I think you women know what I'm talking about. And to really make your point in a constructive way, even if you can risk being labeled as annoying. Because label is another thing that you can face when you're women that achieve things. People like you to put other people in boxes. I've been called the best, like inspiring, badass, everything. And I've also been called manly, disempowering, insane. And I can tell you it really hurts. Also status, being put on a pedestal or being introduced within 5 minutes as the friend world champion of street luge, it's not always easy to handle in what the expectation people can have on you afterwards and dealing with this pressure. So I've been tempted to compartmentalize from a place of hiding at first, which is strange, but then I've learned to compartmentalize out of a place of wisdom, embracing the fact that not everybody can take everything about you, and it's fine. You have the power to decide if, when, and how you're talking about something about your life. And this is wisdom. The other magic solution when it comes to empower yourself is to own your achievement, to make a break every once in a while, look back and acknowledge everything you have done, and also understand everything it says about the person you are as a woman, how you can be really empowered as a woman with this. Because one thing to never compartmentalize is your femininity. I used to be very boyish 15 years ago. I've learned that you can own your femininity. You don't need to be one of the boys to be accepted. And on the other side of the spectrum, you don't need to be an aggressive feminist in order to be heard. It's all about being in a place of maturity and consciousness, accepting that you can trigger some behavior in a male-dominated environment and really respond in a place of maturity and alignment so you can inspire shifts. Because we are all here to avoid separation. Ultimately, it's all about finding people that make you feel that you belong, finding your community, finding ways to share experience, sensation, stories, and values with people, so that gender disappears and it creates space for what is the most beautiful thing, unity and deep connection. And this is gold. Thank you.
I can't believe that people once called you humanity. Look at me, what that is. Right, so I didn't miss a word, so sorry. Right, so who has a question? There's some in the audience today. Hey, Andrew.
Have you tried street looting in Bali?
Have you tried street looting in Bali?
No. The roads will be interesting sometimes, but the traffic makes it completely insane, and whatever dogs and monkey and everything. If the Balinese people want to close the road and organize an event, I will follow, but I think I don't have the money to get the road closed by myself.
Other question? How did you start, how did you join the street looting in the beginning?
I was 22, I was living in Paris, surfing a lot. Every weekend we were going on the shore. And I was bored during the week at my work. And a friend of mine, a surfing friend told me, oh, there's this slalom World Cup happening, we should go see it. And I thought that was awesome, slalom skateboarding. And then he told me, oh, every Tuesday some people meet to do longboarding together. Oh, let's go there. And of course, I got along with the people and we're talking the same language. And they told me, oh, there's this free ride happening in Normandy in a month. You should come. I was like, what is this? Oh, it's a road close to traffic. No. And there was no good wave this weekend, so I joined. And somebody lent me her street luge, an amazing woman. And this is how it all started. And within a few months, I had my own street luge and I was doing every free rides in Europe. Because I got hooked, and a few years later, I moved in the Alps and went to another level.
How many awards have you won so far?
How many?
Because you won tournaments and also World Champions.
I don't know. A lot, yeah. In the women category, but as I said, my biggest achievement is to have been able to achieve very good rankings in the men category, because in France we have this quote that say, if you succeed without perish, you triumph without glory. You know, if you succeed without taking risk, you triumph without glory. And for me, riding with the guys and feeling like an equal was the real challenge.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. So we're coming to the third speaker for tonight. Her name is Astrid. So Astrid is born in the Prague. She is one of the most renowned jazz pianists in Indonesia. So she trained in classical music when she found that jazz was the best way to express herself and her musical needs. Tonight, Astrid will speak about raising children through music and arts. So please help me to give a big applause to Astrid.
Hello everyone, it's nice to be here, and then it's nice to see you all. This is my first time at PechaKucha, and then I've never been here grabbing the mic and then speaking in front of you. I usually grab the mic in front of my piano, so I have something in front of me, so to cover my my nerve, you know. Yeah. Now, tonight I'm going to talk about to share my experience about having music in my life. I used to study classical music since I was 4, and then I finished, and then I became a teacher when I was 17. And then I think it's already like more than 15 years I teach. And I love children. I teach young children. And then, well, I don't like to teach teenagers because it's kind of like hard to handle them. And then hard with the schedule as well, because sometimes, Miss, I cannot do this because I have this. Okay, and then the other next, I have swimming lesson, I cannot do this. Okay, so yeah, I love to teach like since 4 years old and then until maybe 12, 13, because it's really easy to handle, and then they are really quick to teach. Because at that young age, if you teach something, and then they will copy you instantly, you know. And then I moved here like in 2008 because I met my future husband at that time. And then at the time I was facing like 2 options. I had a gig offered to Korea and then also here. So I chose to be in Bali because I feel that my music career is much more here, and then here I can express my jazz compositions more besides in Jakarta. I used to live in Jakarta as well. So I have my baby last year. Now he is 1 year old. He just had his birthday like 2 weeks ago. And then he's with me now with my husband at the back. So if you heard like babies crying just now, it's him. Sorry about that. Okay, and then yeah, and then I arranged the Ubud Village Jazz Festival, which happened like 5 years ago. And the embryo of the festival is actually here at the betelNut. So if you can go upstairs, there's pictures on the right side. There's a picture of my band there, and then also the area of the festival in 2012. So basically, we created this festival because we love to do it. We volunteer in this jazz festival because in my opinion that the jazz festival which happened in Indonesia, it's not really a musical thing, you know. But I'm a musician, so I know that matters. So I feel that Bali is full of art and then high appreciation, especially in Ubud. So we picked Ubud, and then so we created the Ubud Village Jazz Festival in 2013. So we're going to have it in next of August. Well, this is me playing. Like I think it's in 2015. So yeah, and then at that time I was pregnant, and then I love to have him to listen to any kind of music. And then now it is proven that my kid can grow, I think it's a little bit faster than the other kid. I don't know. Because 11 months, he can walk already in 3 steps. And then in 1 year old, he already can run, which amazed me, you know. And then every time he listens to music, he's doing this. So it's easy. In the morning, I just put on the TV, and then he would just sit in front of TV and then doing like that. And then, yeah, this is the crowd in the Ubud Village Jazz Festival. And last year, he was just like 3.5 months. So I had to get back to the hotel every 2 hours to nursing him. And then, that's kind of like nice experience, which is also hard because I had to split my concentration between arranging the big festival and then also with him. Of course, I love him so much. I take him everywhere I go. I take him everywhere I play. And yeah, because we don't have nanny, and we believe that parents love is enough, you know. Well, sometimes I really need somebody to take care of him while I work with my laptop, while I rehearse. But we decided that we can take care of this, and then if I do something, then my husband will get my back. And then there's my husband there filming me in front of this feedback mic. Sorry. Okay, but anyway, yeah, I'm encouraging you, if you love the idea of nice art and then about the concept of jazz, please come to the Ubud Village Jazz Festival because you will feel different atmosphere there. And then you can just sit, not using the chair. Well, we provide the chair for the elderly, but you can sit there and then listen to the music, listen to the composition that they make, and then it's totally different with the other, you know, renowned band. Like perhaps in Indonesia, jazz is incognito, you know, because they don't really know who is Louis Armstrong and who is Charlie Parker. Maybe they don't aware of that. But in our festival, we love to do that. We love to play some composition and then to be in the swing era, and then also sometimes maybe in the bebop era. And then to educate them that jazz is more about hard scales, you know, big scales. This is the musicians from the Netherlands, and we're lucky to have them in our first year. So I had all the pictures in my computer, and then when I looked at the pictures now, I completely like overwhelmed, you know. Oh my God, like 5 years ago we started this, and then with nothing. We don't have money, and then we only have love, we only have passion to do this. And then at that time I haven't married my husband, and then the festival was in August, and my weddings is in October. So yeah, after my first press release, I had to go to the wedding venue just to take care of everything. Yeah, but I really love it. And then I hope to see you all in the Jazz Festival. And then I'm encouraging you, if you had small children, please take them to the music course, or at least to play them some music. It doesn't have to be jazz. You can play like classical music, you can play pop songs, and then take them into musical restaurants. Things like that. And then thank you for listening to me. Excuse my English if I said something wrong. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Astrid. Does anyone here in the audience have a question? Yes.
When is the Jazz Festival?
When is the Jazz Festival?
It's 11 and 12 of August at Ubud.
Who are coming? Do you have the lineups already? Please.
Yeah, please check out the website. Everything is internet.
Everything is internet nowadays. Yeah.
Ubud, congratulations on all your success. I'm curious to know about your parents. Were they supportive of your decision to become a jazz musician?
I'm just curious about your parents. Were they supportive with your decisions and your career?
Oh, I forgot to describe my background. I am a dentist, actually. Yeah, and then I wanted to go to music school when I finished high school, but my parents said, don't go to music school because you won't have a living. You know, in Indonesia at that time, to play some music, maybe we'll just get small money. But yeah, and then I finally decided to take dentistry, and then I did. I finished in 2004 in 4.5 years only, because I just want to finish it quickly, go some practice, and then I can go to play some pianos. And then I did. I went to the best university in Indonesia, it's called University in Indonesia, and then at least the brain works, you know. And then I finished there, and then I took in Indonesia, a doctor or dentist had to practice for 3 years to get the license. So I did that in Bogor for 3 years. I had 20 patients in a day for only in 4 hours. So. And I do it in the morning. Yeah, I had the practice in the morning, and then in the afternoon I teach, and then in the evening I play. And then after that I have so much back pain. So really, so I went to the doctor, and then doctor said that you have too many jobs, you have to pick something. Okay, so that's an excuse to my parents. Yeah, and because of the doctor said this, and then at that time my career in like some TVs, I used to play also in some TV stations for some projects. And then he decided, okay, just follow and do whatever you want, because you already finished your dentistry. Okay, so the last time I do the dentistry is 2007, and then started from that, I just a full-time musician.
One last question? Oh. Can you sing something for us? Yeah, the microphone is better.
Okay, I love the jazz standard song called Did I Do? Let's see if I remember the lyrics, because I usually read it and then have my piano in front of me. Do I love you, oh my, do I, honey, did I do? Do I love you, oh my, do I, honey, did I do? That I'm the one who found you, that's why I'm always here around you. Do I love you, oh my, do I, honey, did I do?
Good. Very good voice. Make your dance again. Apparently I'm not allowed to dance like my colleagues here. Right, okay, so, you have one more question? No, all right, so thank you, Astrid. Thank you so much for coming. Right. Okay, so, we will have the fourth speaker tonight, and her name is Patricia. Probably most of you know her, probably not. So, so Patricia is proud to declare herself as a polymath. Her mission is to empower others to embrace their multidimensionality. So she thinks that the way we think about our genius is changing. So tonight, Patricia will share her thoughts about how we could embrace our multiple talents as our true nature and greatest strength. So please help me to welcome Patricia Parkinson.
So this is me when I was 1. I'm Maltese, and in our culture we have a tradition. When a child has their first birthday, you give them a range of different objects that represent their future destiny in life. And that's me choosing a toy machine gun and rosary beads. Which was, right from the start, I should have known that I was going to follow a path of combining radically different things. So by the time I was 20, I had already experimented with being a developer and a graphic designer and a broadcast journalist and a restaurant manager. I'm naturally curious and passionate about many different things, and I don't like the feeling of being restricted. But when it came to being asked, what do I do? I tended to lie. Not because I was ashamed of what I did, but because I did many different things. I was worried that if I had answered that I did lots of different things, I would seem flippant or unfocused, confused, or even arrogant. And most of all, I was worried about being an imposter. If I couldn't answer the question about what did I do, then did I even really know what I wanted to do? So I did what many of us do, and I turned to Dr. Google, and I decided to start searching for my symptoms, because if I found my ailment, it would lead me to my treatment, and maybe I'd be able to answer that classic question. So I did that. But what it led me to was realizing I didn't have a problem, I had a strength. And more importantly, I wasn't alone. Being able to manage many different things is actually a good thing, and it's quite common in the sphere of entrepreneurs. I wasn't quite a generalist or a specialist either. I was a different breed entirely. I discovered that I was a polymath, which means of many learnings. We have diverse skills in many different areas and depth of knowledge in potentially unrelated areas. And you probably heard the term, but by another name, multi-potentialite, jack of all trades, neo-generalist, scanner. Polymaths are the problem solvers and the innovators and the translators. We live at the intersection of specialism and generalism. We're not quite specialists with depth of knowledge in one area, and we aren't quite generalists with surface level knowledge across multiple areas. We have that depth and that breadth, and we live between these spaces. But I'd like for you to think of it this way. We're not quite herbivores that only eat plants, and we're not quite carnivores that only eat meat. We're the omnivores that eat both, or in the case of polymaths, somewhere between the omnivore and an omnivore, because we have an insatiable appetite to learn different things. So I continued my search, and my bubble of optimism burst, because everything I found about polymaths either said we're an endangered species, or it's an excuse to dabble, or it's only appropriate for the likes of Einstein and Da Vinci. And I felt this overwhelming sense of overshadowing, like clarity and confidence that had come from realizing what my species was. So I pushed the eject button in life and went here to a snowed-in cabin in northern Canada for 4 months to regroup and reassess. And at that time, I really wish I would have known about Bali. I would have traded snow for palm trees in a second. But here is what I walked away with. Things don't have to be black or white. Being a polymath is unique, and it's actually a path in itself. You know, the world's always going to need specialists and generalists, but polymaths are rare. The world needs more of them. We need to repopulate the species, so to speak. But I also realized that I had a habit of seesawing between overconfidence and underconfidence. I, at times, would set myself unrealistic goals and then not follow through. And at others, I felt like I knew it all, or I knew nothing at all. And I realized that I wasn't just lying to other people, I was lying to myself. I thought about all the times I walked into meetings and overrode the opinions of everyone else because I thought I knew better, instead of taking the time to listen and to encourage others to share their own opinions. Because as polymaths, we have the ability to see through different perspectives. We think in terms of possibilities, and we're the dealers of hope. But it's also really dangerous, because we can disrupt the status quo, and we can change people's minds. And to keep this in check, we need to balance confidence in our competence with valuing the opinions of others. But when I started calling myself a polymath, it became a conversation starter. People invited me in to explain what it meant and elaborate on all the different things that I was doing. And it encouraged me to learn new ways to integrate the things that I was doing. And it led me into an entrepreneurial path. But a really surprising thing started happening. Other people started having their own profound realizations. They'd look at me and go, hey, that sounds like me. And I'd see this wave of relief and self-awareness wash over their face as they opened their toolbox of all their skills they wouldn't have shared with me otherwise. The future will reward polymaths. It needs problem solvers that have diverse knowledge and fresh eyes to connect the dots. It wants translators that understand complex concepts and can make patterns. And it desires innovators that can make sense of this all and lead us to new ideas. Our main evolutionary advantage as human beings is our adaptability. Our multidimensional nature is intrinsically polymathic. Life requires many skills. So when we gain the confidence that we can, and we should, acquire many skills, that's what opens us up to this capability. So if any of this resonates with you, I wholeheartedly encourage you to embrace your inner polymath. Learn how to leverage that diversity of your skills and integrate them, because it's a strength. I wish I could tell that to the little girl, to save her years of heartbreak and self-doubt and squandered opportunity. You might be dangerous, but that's because you have the ability to shape the future.
Well done. You probably heard it a lot when you were growing up. So well done. How many of you actually consider yourself as polymaths? That's what I'm. There's a lot of them. All right. That's great. Yeah, I guess so. By the way, it's for you.
Thank you.
It's very hard. Right, so does anyone have a question? Someone from up? No? Right there. Yes. So what do you do now?
Well, I'm a polymath. No, I run a branding agency. I develop products. I also consult at a bunch of different areas in user experience design to business strategy. I look for as many diverse ways of still tapping into my interest under an entrepreneurial lens at the moment.
Other question? Yeah? What was the process?
So I think there's two key things: is being an entrepreneur.
So what was the process for you to figure out how to integrate all? Yeah.
I think there's two things. Being an entrepreneur, we have the luxury of being able to choose which elements of business that we want to do, and I may not want to do accounting, but I may want to do the website or whatever it may be. And being an entrepreneur has opened that up to me. But what I realized that was a real catalyst for me, and what I share with others is, I think I was falling down thinking I needed to do everything under the same umbrella. Like, my personal brand is my headquarters. I'm an octopus, right? And that's me at the top. And then all my tentacles, the different things that I do. So when you try to talk to everyone about all the different things you're doing, it doesn't resonate with them. So I've taken time to streamline the different things I do to niche down into those areas to different audiences. I just happen to do many different things in that way.
One last question?
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah.
Hi. My question is, it seems that in like a lot of employers and people looking for either consultants or employees look for people that have a specialism. There's really still that valued in the workplace. How do you sell yourself as a polymath and having lots of different experience and interests but no one specialism as being a positive thing to people that don't want that, or people that think that they need a specialist?
How do you sell yourself to the employer?
I think the key is first gaining self-awareness where you fall on the spectrum. I had a figure 8 up for a minute, and it's from the New Generalist if anyone wants to look it up. But there is ranges of specialism and generalism, and polymaths happen to fall somewhere in the middle where we can have multiple specialities. So I think it's about realizing what are you actually a specialist in, and it's not about like being the best at it. Think of it like T-shaped talent, right? So you have depth in a particular area and then all this other stuff around it. Figure out what it is that you can really hang your hat on and you excel at, run with that, then explain in context why those other things you know amplify your impact. You know what I mean? And I think employers will understand that language. It's about addressing what you are but not apologizing for it.
Thank you, Patricia. Right, so before I go to the next speaker, I would like to introduce you to my colleague, Sisi. So as I already told you in the beginning, that this event is organized by the team from Ubud. So Sisi will tell more about Ubud and what we're doing.
Hi everyone, I'm Sisi. I'm the commercial break. I promise I'm gonna make it really quick because I just can't wait to hear more from these amazing ladies, right? I mean, they're really amazing. Can we give them an applause? Yeah, if you enjoy PechaKucha, I just want to let you know that at Ubud we host plenty of events such as this, where we connect you with amazing speakers, interesting conversations, thought-provoking discussions, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the 3 upcoming events that we're going to be running. One of them is Startup Weekend Bali, which is, the date is wrong there. It's not my fault, I promise. It's actually June 9 to 11, so it's next month. And Startup Weekend Bali is very, very special, especially this one. So this is a very special edition. It's our first ever tourism editions. So what we're trying to do with Startup Weekend Bali is we're helping people who have startup ideas, and we help them launch their startup in 54 hours. So it's the weekend-long startup marathon, and we have mentors, and people can pitch their ideas, and then eventually, by the end of the weekend, they get to launch their startups. Now, this Startup Weekend Bali is special for tourism editions, and the goal is, okay, maybe I should change. Alright, the commercial break didn't go according to plan, but so Startup Weekend Bali, this edition is very special because what we're trying to do is to help people to launch their startup ideas for a more sustainable and purposeful tourism in Bali. So maybe you've heard that last year in 2016, Bali have 5 million international tourists actually come over to this island. And this year, we just recently got voted as the best tourism destination by TripAdvisor. So there's a lot of volume and a lot of attention being given to tourism in this island. And we think that it's just appropriate and it's very timely to kind of like gather our resources and help find all these fresh perspective, fresh ideas in order to make tourism in Bali sustainable and purposeful. So if you have ideas and you want to launch your startups, this is your event. We are already selling tickets, and yeah, it's gonna be exactly next month. And next, we are going, so it's going to be our anniversary also next month. Ubud is turning 4 years old, and that actually sounds very crazy. So over this, since we opened, we have witnessed a lot of transformations. We've seen people who get inspired by other people, inspiring other people, helping each other, changing people's lives, and to us, they're all heroes. And this is how we're going to celebrate it this year. Maybe you've heard those saying, right, like, not all heroes wear capes. Don't listen to that, because at this party you get to wear your capes. Like, the craziest cape is the costume party. So it's going to be on June 3rd. Everyone's invited. And yeah, so make sure you come and wear your crazy capes or whatever superhero you want to be. And then the next one, yeah, so it's not just about fun and party. We also are going to be running this course called 9 to Try, which is aimed to help people when they want to launch their passion-based business. So it's a 5 days workshop, and it's very hands-on. We are giving away a lot of like tools and resources. And the takeaway is that we're hoping that you get to leave the jobs that it's not really your passion, that you don't feel connected to, and you are able to discover what you really want to do and create great impacts from that. So that's pretty much all. End of commercial break, and we're going to continue PechaKucha.
Right, thank you, Susie. I also have one more advertisement, commercial break. So probably some of you already received a flyer before. So this flyer is made by a woman also made an impact. So if you are looking for a date in Bali, men or women, so there's this new platform called Nomad Soulmates. So if you find it hard to find a partner and with like-minded people who also like to travel and work from anywhere in the world, so yeah, so you can also join this, and they have, I think, a launch party soon, so you can take a look at the flyer as well. Sounds like it's raining. My phone. Or not. Right. So the next speaker, they're a duo. Their name is Ellen and Nefena. Very excited about them as well. So Ellen and Nefena, they both. Right, so Ellen and Nefena, they both experienced an illness at a very young age. They have been in a path of recovery for a couple of years, where they found themselves often in an environment that is always quick to judge. Is it human nature to judge? What happens if we actually made an effort to really get to know each other? So please help me to welcome Ellen and Nefena.
Hi everyone, my name is Nefena, and right now I'm a happy remote worker living my life in Bali. But it hasn't always been like that, because when I was 15 years old, I became sick. I suffered from ME, also known as fibromyalgia. This disease is characterized by neurological symptoms, extreme exhaustion and pain in the muscles. The first few weeks I was sick, the only thing I could really do was sleeping, and for almost 2 years I couldn't go to school. Then there were days where I was doing really good, and other days where I didn't really feel alive because of the pain and the tiredness. But after several rehabilitation programs, I'm proud to say that after 7 years I finally recovered from ME. But being sick at a really young age was really difficult, and I never really talked about it in the wide open until now. So it makes me feel very vulnerable doing it, but I hope that by sharing my story, I can create awareness about the fact that people can be judgmental.
Yes, so my name is Ellen, and I'm currently doing an internship in an awesome co-working space called Ubud. Many of you might think that my life has always been this good. I'm young, I'm happy, and I'm doing something really good for my own future. But what a lot of you might not see is my past. I've had a bacterial meningitis at the age of 16. This is a bacterial infection of the meninges around your brain, and being in this situation is actually very dangerous. I've looked death in the eyes. After this, I had to recover for around 7 years from a brain that was just simply not functioning. Going through a lot of emotional and physical setbacks, I can now say that I'm fully recovered and I'm happy to live my life again. Navena and I, we shared a story, and we came to the understanding that we actually share a lot of mutual feelings. And one of those feelings is to be judged. And with being judged, a lot of other feelings actually also occur, which is what we want to talk about today. The first one is...
exclusion.
For 2 weeks, I had not been in school.
When I could finally go to school again, I was so happy to see all my friends again. And for 5 minutes, they asked me how I was doing.
But maybe not even for 5 minutes. They barely even looked at me.
And this made me feel excluded. Loneliness. A part of my family with whom I used to be very close. At one point, I didn't hear anything from them anymore.
My friends, they were going on a holiday, and I was supposed to go with them, but I couldn't because I was too ill. They never ever sent me a message, not even saying that they missed me there. And this made me feel really lonely.
Judgment. People telling you, it's not real what you feel, it's just between your ears.
Aren't you supposed to get over it now?
I'm not gonna ask you anymore because you wouldn't join anyway.
Huh? You?
You don't even look sick.
So, with this you lose connection. What we're actually trying to say here is that we lost connection with others, and others lost connection with us.
And when you lose connection with others, what actually happens is you lose connection with yourself. And when you lose connection with yourself, that can cause depression.
Because one of the core needs as human beings is to be seen.
And of course, losing connection doesn't only happen because of an illness. There are many more other causes. Some people have to go through a divorce. Some people get bullied for years. Some people lose a child or another loved one. And some people, bless them, they get raped. What I'm trying to say here is that most of the time we don't know what kind of battle someone is fighting. And imagine the story that you're judging is actually the story of someone that you love, like your mother or your brother. Do you think you would judge them in the same way?
Or do you actually think you will judge them in a different way, just because you already have a really close connection to this person? Right now I want to ask you to close your eyes in a minute. I want to invite you to think about a moment that you have been judged. Really dive deep into the feeling of this moment. Really visualize this moment again. We will tell you as well when you can open your eyes again. But for now, I invite you to close your eyes.
You can open your eyes now. Yes, you're not the only one. In order to create stronger connection, we would like you to consider the next 3 things. First, try to make it a habit to ask 3 more questions about someone else's thoughts. Because most of the time, we don't know what someone else is thinking.
The second is to make your own thoughts conscious. Because we believe that a lot of judgmental patterns actually lie in an unconscious mind. The third one is to listen to someone's words. Listen to someone's story, instead of only listening to someone to provide them with your own answer. So, these pictures are me and Navena at our worst point of being ill. And besides the wheelchair that Navena is in, you might not see that we're ill, or you definitely do not see that we're ill.
So whether this is me, or Ellen, or you, we all have our own feelings, our own thoughts, and our own perspectives. But that shouldn't mean that we shouldn't consider each other's perspectives. And coming back to our story now, we are finally happy to say that we're happy and healthy again. But after going through a lot of judgment, it made us more empathetic and aware of the fact that people can struggle without it being obvious.
Yes, so we invite you now to look at your neighbor and say the following sentence, which is, I have empathy for whatever you have been through. I have empathy for whatever you've been through.
If this is working. So, how did you feel?
Relieved.
Interesting. So he's my colleague and he's my housemate. So I've heard them struggling for days and days, and look at them. Really great. Really great. Right. So anyone in the audience have a question? No? What was your key to getting better?
For me, it was, well, I have to say I recovered, but compared with how I was before, I recovered, but I still have to go through difficulties sometimes. But there were a lot of different rehabilitation programs that helped me out, and most of it was really step by step getting energy back by just walking 5 minutes, and every day walking 2 more minutes to just get your energy back, and then in the end you create time during the day, like 2 hours that you can walk to do other things. And that's how I recovered in the end. But I have to say that being in Bali right now is really good to recover as well.
I think for me recovering was definitely not easy because my brain it was not working. But what happened during those 7 years is that somehow deep down inside I knew I was going to be better. It was some kind of belief inside myself. And I'm very lucky that I had this belief, because otherwise I think I wouldn't have survived it. So I would say this helped me through to know that I will be better at some point. That was my help. Yeah.
How did Bali help you to get better?
Oh, it's so hard. Well, the first few months I was here to volunteer at a school, and I had a really stable life back home. But because I never really could do the things that I wanted, I found out in Bali what I really find important in life and what I actually want to do. And having a lot of people like you around me who are really open-minded, that's helping a lot. And for a few months I pushed it away, but when I met Ellen, thank you Ellen, when I met her we shared our stories, and then everything came up again, and it was really difficult, but at the same time it's a really good healing process. Yeah.
I think Bali is just an awesome place to be. It's the happy people, it's the Balinese locals, it's, I don't know, the whole place is just a happy place, and I think that's good for everyone to be in.
Any question?
Did you ever confront or tell your friends and family, like in hindsight, how you felt and how sick you really were, and how did that go?
Have you ever confronted your family or friends about how you feel?
Well, like I told before, I unfortunately lost connection with a part of my family with who I used to be very close. I confronted them, but I was 15, so I was scared. And my parents took the decision, and I'm really thankful for them because it wasn't a good environment. But next to that, to be honest, this is the very first time that I'm open about it. And I'm gonna show the video to all my friends. And I mean, I've had a lot of amazing people around me. I had my parents, I had some friends that have been there for me all the time. So I want to thank you for that, Mom and Dad. And yeah, but right now it's gonna be the moment.
Well, I had a group of friends when I was 16 that they didn't really know how to cope with a friend that was ill, and I think for them it was difficult as well. And 5 or 6 years later, I asked them to come to my place, and we had dinner with all of us, and we discussed it in everyone's perspective. And I think after that, it was good for everyone to do that. So, but I had amazing friends as well. But sometimes people lose connection because of these kind of things. But you can get it back. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Ellen and Lavena. So that was beautiful. The next speaker will also have a beautiful story. So her name is Diane. So Diane Hopkins. Diane works with coaches and passionate entrepreneurs to create a positive impact on bigger audiences through online courses, books, and public speaking. So she helps her clients share their expertise together with their personal story, so they can inspire and facilitate meaningful change. Diane believes that sharing your personal story is the best way to teach. Life rarely goes to plan, but what really matters are the stories we tell. So how could we rescript our life story and allow us to live meaningful and happy lives? Diane will share about this tonight, so please help me to welcome Diane.
Hi everyone. When I was a child, my favorite book was The Faraway Tree. In it, a group of children discover a fantasy land atop a magical big oak tree. There they can escape their ordinary world, stripped from their expectations and roles. They find themselves braver, stronger, and more resourceful. Up in the faraway tree, they can be whoever they want to be. I often wished I could be someone else. Someone tougher, someone louder, less sensitive. I never understood why my quiet personality was such a problem. I never even thought I was quiet. I was just me. Who else? I longed to be free from that box, to escape the limiting idea of who I am. Around me, I watched other people telling stories about real life. They weren't telling lies exactly. They believed them to be true. The problem was their stories were hurting themselves and causing them to suffer. I remember thinking, I'm glad I don't do that. I'm glad I'm not crazy like them. I was so fascinated by this inner storytelling that I returned to university to study for a PhD. I fantasized about sitting under a big tree, reading and having great thoughts. But after 3 years of interviewing people and napping under that tree, I realized my role as a researcher was to make meaning from people's stories. The tough part came when I had to find a conclusion, to come up with a single story. But what I discovered was this: there are multiple versions of the truth, and each version of truth feels very true to the person holding it. And those different versions can change the meaning of one single event into something good or something bad. The only conclusion I could make is that we all view life through our own lens. We all choose certain information to focus on and other pieces of information to conveniently ignore. We make meaning about what's going out there from our inner beliefs in here, and we filter everything, and that shapes the way we see the world. In the middle of my PhD, under a pile of other people's stories, I got sick and didn't get better for 2 years. Forced to stay in bed away from other people, I couldn't even hold up a book. It was my own personal vipassana of hell. But away from other people with all the alone time, the ideas I held about myself broke down. Insulated from other people's stories about who I was, I found a new vision for my life. In it was less fear and more adventure, less guilt and more saying yes to myself. I discovered that I felt freer as I recovered, freer from the box. And I noticed that my inside story was growing really strong. But I had two competing stories about the meaning of my illness. One was the lost years, featuring all the things I was missing out on as a sick 25-year-old. And the other was my spiritual time out, guest starring Oprah and a brief cameo by Anthony Robbins. Now both stories were actually true, it's just one turned fear into hope. And this hopeful story took me to leave my home country of England and move to Australia. Now I never would have imagined I would have been brave enough to do this before I was ill. So like the faraway tree, a faraway place appealed to me. So I moved to this land of oak trees and hot air balloons, and the box felt so much bigger away from home. But even there, after a few years, my life started to change. My marriage ended, and I felt my identity slipping away from me. It was both exciting and extremely terrifying. But then another wave hit. My career, always the strong story of my life, also started to crumble. I stopped winning and I had no idea who I was. I felt overwhelmed by outside stories. For the first time in my life, people were saying I was failing in my relationship, my career, everything I'd set out to achieve. I couldn't maintain my inside story, and without a hopeful story to cling on to, I had to agree with them that I was indeed failing. So pushed out of my old life, I landed in Bali. And we do strange things in times of transition. We moved to warmer climates, we swapped paid work for writing a book, and we even learned to hula hoop. And from the outside world, it looks like we are escaping reality. And in some ways, we are. We are escaping a story that no longer fits us and searching for a new one. Now, transition is a very vulnerable time. We are between stories. It's a time that we're most exposed to outside stories, and we can be ashamed of our journey. And we're especially terrified of trying to answer that question, what are you doing now? What we really need to do is to reframe failure. Now this starts with realizing that maybe we didn't fail after all. Maybe things had to fall apart. It also involves taking responsibility for our actions, but also letting go the parts that are out of our control. It is only then that we can find a hopeful story that focuses less on the disappointments and more on the opportunities. Most importantly, we need to trust in the bigger story, the one we can't even see yet. As our old story breaks away, new invitations arrive to visit new places, meet new people, pursue new careers, and even have new ideas that never would have happened in the old story. Knowing that it's probably only in hindsight that we'll glimpse the meaning of it all. Now, Bali turned out to be a lot like the fantasy land at the top of the faraway tree. I got many chances to reinvent myself, to try on new clothes, new job titles, and even new personas. And besides from learning how to pose in front of a swimming pool, the thing I learned most was how to live without a box, how to let go of my identity and move forward even without knowing my bigger story. What I've realized recently is transition is a constant. We have to get comfortable with being a collection of hyphens. And if we're going to really live our lives and really thrive, we've got to let go of that need to know exactly who we are at any point in time. Now, let's face it, we're never going to stop telling stories. We just have to remember that we're always being selective. We're always choosing what to focus on and what to leave out of our stories. So what's really important is that we choose a meaning that empowers us to feel good about ourselves and to make the best of our lives. And the answer is to rescript our stories as our life changes. And if we're doing life right, we're always going to be outgrowing that box, and we're always going to be in need of a new story. What we really need to do is grow our inside stories, deliberately choose hopeful stories, and inspire others with the stories we tell.
Anyone has a question? What were you thinking when you decided to learn to hula?
I think it's something a lot of people in Bali do in a transition. That or ecstatic dance, which I did as well. Yeah, I think there was so many of the things I tried in Bali helped kind of unlock different parts of myself that I hadn't explored. So hula hooping was a way of expressing myself and finding a kind of playful, childlike view of the world, and that really helped me break through of the serious academic that had to publish or perish.
You want to ask a question now? Yep. What was the PhD about?
It was actually about deliberative politics. So it was about big citizen forums where people get to decide what happens for their cities. Yeah. But what I discovered is people had so many different versions of this one event. You know, some people thought it was the best democratic thing ever, and other people thought it was pure manipulation. And that kind of made me realize that it really is the way we look at things in terms of how we actually create meaning.
Another question? Yeah, Andrew.
It was a very heavy tweet. I'm probably trying to rephrase it. The question to you is about scripting our story, right? Do you have any takeaways for the rest of us on how to script our story in a more, I guess, a positive manner?
Yeah, I think one secret that I've learned and I've also stumbled over is to not take a snapshot of our life as meaning something too much. You know, so if we look at what's going on in our life when we're in a transition or in a low point, and we kind of extrapolate that to have a bigger meaning or to project into the future about what's possible for us, that's very dangerous. So I think one of the most important things is to kind of let go of making a judgment about meaning in those times and know that we will come out of that time and find clarity somewhere down the track. So yeah, there are definitely times you almost don't want to create a story, and that can be a negative thing. But what I found also really useful, which other people might find useful, is to look back over some of these ups and downs and see what those kind of, how the different dots connected, and start to really realize that that thing that didn't go to plan actually led you to something good, and that led you to something, to explore something, and then when you are going through those moments, then you can go, well, maybe that's what's happening again. I just can't see the good bit kind of quite yet. So I find it's useful to go back on the past and kind of reframe in a positive lens how all the pieces led me to where I am.
Thank you, Diane. So we're coming to the last speaker for tonight. The last speaker is Sonia Iskayanti. So Sonia is a mother, a writer, a lecturer, and also a founder of Creative Arts Community and also independent publishing house. Tonight she will speak about a topic that is rather controversial. So she will talk about the challenges faced by the Balinese women on this island. So without taking any longer, I would like to welcome Sonia Iskayanti on stage.
Thank you. I think I'm the only Balinese woman who speaks tonight. Balinese women are born 3 times in their life. First, when they are born as baby, when they have no perspective. Second, when they are born as mature thinkers with ideal perspective. Third, when they are born as married women with reality perspective. The third one is the new birth for making a woman really a woman. A failed one, a successful one, or none of them. A change comes from a big curiosity, but only curiosity with fire. Curiosity with fire will lead women to freedom, to be what they want, to be who they really are, to be meaningful for themselves and others. But the question is, do we have questions? Do we have curiosity? And do we have fire? How many of us ask questions and why? I am a married Balinese woman. Wise men say, life is tragedy for those who feel, and life is a comedy for those who think. A Balinese woman's life is a mix between tragedy and comedy, and a mystery lies between them. A Balinese woman's life is a twisted plot with a never-ending ending. The question is, where are we and where will we go? To question or not to question, that is the question. Do Balinese women ask questions? For what reasons? Do they expect the answers? Definitions are clearly made, perspectives are made, roads are made for us. Every answers are there, but not questions. No more questions, no more curiosity, no wonders at all. Silence is the best answer. What happened in the world of no questions? Not much, not even a slight change, not even a vision. This is where a creative approach for women's literacy needs to be redefined, recreated, and reshaped. Literacy doesn't mean only able to read and write, but able to speak up, stand for yourself, and empower others, contribute something to the world. When Balinese married women do not ask questions, it is likely that they don't have options in their life. Balinese women have to start from creative literacy environment. They need to engage more, involve more, to contribute more, to have more options. Sometimes Balinese women go for economic driven perspective. They choose money instead of their passion. money, money, money. But when will they go for their passion? And sometimes we rarely ask, what is our passion? And suddenly we are tired of becoming Balinese women. And I believe that in some phase of my life, one of the most meaningful thing is to find freedom in ourselves, to write our story and do not let others to write for us, but write for your own life. I would rather die of passion than of boredom. So I started to think that my passion and my freedom is found through art and literature. I usually started writing in the early of morning when my kids are not waking up. And it's very hard to balance time between becoming mothers, becoming writers, becoming lecturers, becoming everything in one package. But I do believe that words speaks louder sometimes than action. In the world of imagination, life is not about money. Life is not about rules. Life is not that boring. In the world of creativity, you are born as a new baby, new woman, new life, a very different one. In the world of creativity, you are you. You are free to define colors, shapes, structures, and so many ways. But reality says how many women will have this option. This is my daughter, Putu Putih Padi. I introduced her to creativity, to art. I involve her because I want her to have better option. I want her to have better future than me. Because she is going to be Balinese woman too. Art is a light that makes us realize the truth. In so many ways, I think that art is a freedom in reality. In art, I can escape from my real life. And if you know what I mean, to be a Balinese woman in a very tight culture responsibility. Art gives us vision. Art gives us the different world, a new world that you can't be defined by others, but you define yourself. You are not defined by society. Art is your true escape, your real freedom in a fake world. I started my community in 2009. I wrote Lion Sari script, and this script brought me to Australia, Netherlands, France, and China. And I was thinking, from that point, this is my life. I have to empower others through art and creativity and literacy. I help many of young women to discover themselves through art. They have problems, and they will have bigger problems when they are married. And I help them cope with that through my community. I empower them that you are not alone. Discover yourself, express yourself, and be who you really want to be. It's hard because our culture doesn't teach us to speak loud. And therefore, I will thank PechaKucha Night for giving me a chance to speak here as one of the Balinese women, because it is very rare occasion that we can speak like that. And I was terrified because I had a very bad experience. I wrote an essay and I was bullied because I have too many questions and I have so many criticism, but finally I have to be who I am, and I keep my burning hair. I keep my energy with me to be myself, because that's the only freedom I have. Thank you so much.
Sonia. I would like to take questions from the audience. Yeah?
Why does life become harder for Balinese women once you marry?
Why life becomes harder for Balinese women when you get married, after you get married?
Because actually when you are married, you are not married with a man only, but you are marrying a society. And it suddenly becomes your responsibility to handle. And if you're not ready, you can get very stressful, collapse, or hang yourself. Because it's so hard.
Other question?
First, I'd like to thank you for speaking here, and then I'd like to ask if you think this has changed since the influx of tourists and expats and Westerners. Do you think it had an influence, either positive or negative?
Has it changed because we have a lot of tourists coming here?
I think it can be both ways. It can be positive. I think that some discussions like this, festival that raise women's voices, is very positive. But it can also be negative for those women who don't have chance to speak. They can be jealous or something like that. Oh, they are so free, not like us. We are so tied with so many heavy burden. So it can be positive and negative. But I always see this as a positive thing. I never see it as a negative thing. There is always space for learning and for new insights.
You mentioned that you started a community where you empower Balinese women in the village. Can you tell us more about that and how can you help?
Can you tell us a bit more about the community that you started to empower women, Balinese women?
Thank you. My community members are usually women because I think women are into arts now more than men. I don't know why. And I teach in a university where most of them are women rather than men. So in one class with 40 students, only 5 men and the others are women. So I engage more with women, and actually they have so many problems in their family, in their society, and I ask them to discover themselves. I ask them to explore what is their passion, and I started from my community. I asked them to write down their stories, and then I asked them to perform with me, something like that. So it is basically very not like not like a clinic or something like that, not like a psychological clinic, but it's like be friend with them, making them closer to me, and I give them solution. It's not that I don't have problem. I have so much problem, but I think I have already found my passion, and I want to help those who don't get that passion to discover themselves and be brave.
What will be the best way for us to help?
I think it is very difficult because it deals with culture. I think if there is a change that is about to happen, it should start from the Balinese woman. So you can help by giving us space to, like this one, open stage, but I bet not many will speak. Not many.
But how can we help to encourage them then to speak up on this thing?
I think it needs different discussion. It's very tough.
How have your parents and your husband's experience as a husband that you speak now? How have you navigated the challenges?
How's your parents, your husband and your parents and your parents feel about this?
You know what, when I wrote an essay, my husband allowed me to write that essay, and because he's the leader of the website, I mean, he's the owner. And are you sure you are going to publish this? Yes. Okay, I support you. But when it was so many attacks from everywhere about you are being outspoken, you are being aggressive about the culture, I asked my husband to withdraw that essay and forget that that idea has ever been existed. So you just withdraw and forever forget it. But still in my heart, I feel that it's not my mistake, it's reality. When are we going to change this? You know? And every time I remember that, I want to cry. Because this is the future of Balinese women. And you are here, maybe you are outsiders, but I am insider. And I feel. And when you ask how to help us, I don't know. But I can buy art for now. I can do what I can do. Yeah.
now outspoken and think out of the box?
I think because I am a woman with so many questions. I have so many questions that I cannot handle. And I read books everywhere and I wonder a lot. And this is the tradition which is not owned by so many Balinese women, so many other Balinese women. They are forced to be silent. What is this about? Oh, silent, this is culture, you know. What is it? Oh, shut up. Okay, so I think I'm a lucky girl who is raised in a family with open-minded. My mother is there. My mother is a very brave. She's a very brave woman. I knew that we had undergone a lot of problems in our family, but she's very strong. And I believe that this is not only my problem and my mother's problem, but most of Balinese women problem. And I'm still thinking of how to make it change a little bit. But this is very hard because to change someone's culture, you need collective mind. If you are absolute mind, you are not accepted. Because this is a massive.
Yes? Go. Sorry, can you...
Well,
do you still have respect for this Balinese woman?
I'm very respectful about Balinese women. I feel big sympathy for them. If I go to village,
you respect them for those women who don't even try.
Yeah, there are so many in village, in my village, in my husband's village. When I went to a ceremony, I saw them. They have no options. They have no freedom. They have to do whatever they ask to do. But I feel sympathy and I feel respectful because they are there. They're still there to maintain their family, to raise the kids, for whatever problems. I'm respectful in that sense, but I want to help them by read books, reach your ambition or found your passion. But how could it be? It's so hard. It's like, changing someone's point of view. It's very difficult.
Question, Joe? Is there any way that we can
Of course, I have community, and this community helped them to be stronger and stronger. I mean, I started from a small scale first. It cannot be like one province festival of women, woman festival, woman race, because I will be shut down. Yes, we can talk about that. Thank you. I think it's enough, okay?
So that was the last speaker. The next PechaKucha, we're planning to have all speakers. So we need people like Sonia who dare to speak. Sorry, all Indonesian speakers. So we need people who are courageous like Sonia to speak on the stage. So if you know anyone, maybe around your homestays, maybe anyone like that would like to stay or that would like to stand here and speak up and to talk about anything, just email us to events@ubud.org or contact me. Thank you so much for tonight. I hope it inspires you. Good night.